and welcome back to the most amazing channel on the internet. Today we are talking about Prince Philip. Now Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, is 97 years old. He's been consort to the Queen throughout the entirety of her reign of 66 years. What will happen when the legendary figure within the British monarchy passes on? Welcome back guys, I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and today we're talking about the top 10 things that will happen when Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, dies. Now this is a topic that is discussed more and more these days because of his age. Now before we get into this video, I just want to ask you guys who your favourite royal is. Mine is the late Princess Margaret. I love her style. Princess Margaret may be gone, but her style lives on. Alright, this is what will happen. Coming in at number 10, the royals will be prepared. Before the general public are alerted to the death of Prince Philip, the royal family will be alerted. The Queen, of course, will be the first to know. The course of action would vary depending on if he died in hospital or at home, and which of the royal properties Philip died at. He famously hates Buckingham Palace, although does have to spend a bit of time there. Similarly, the course of action would depend on whether or not his death was expected, or whether it came out of the blue. If it is expected, his family would of course be around him. If unexpected, it is likely that those away would make travel plans to return, and the Queen and Philip's children, heir apparent Prince Charles, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, would head back to be by their mother's side. Coming in at number 9, the BBC would be the first to break the news. It is speculated that the BBC would be the first to confirm the news. If Prince Philip died overnight, the world would find out via an announcement on the BBC at 8 AM in the morning, which would mean that most people would be awake and on their way to school or work if it were a weekday. From the BBC's announcement, I imagine that Clarence House, the official PR team for the monarchy, would release a public statement. Other world media would also cover the story. The news would be pretty huge in the UK, where Philip is both notorious and loved. While the news won't be as big across the world as it is in the UK and Commonwealth countries, it will still be discussed, and I imagine the Queen will receive an outpouring of condolence messages from other world leaders. Later on in the day, I imagine that the Prime Minister of England would make a statement. Coming into number 8, flags would be flown at half-mast. The death of the King Consort is a time for national mourning, and all British flags would be flown at half-mast across the country. Not only that, they would also be flown at half-mast at embassies across the world. The only flag that would not be flown at half-mast would be that on Buckingham Palace, which represents the monarchy, so must remain continuous. Coming into number 7, he will lay at St James's Palace for a short period. Prince Philip doesn't want a state funeral, even though as consort to the Queen he is entitled to one. Instead of lying in state at Westminster Abbey, something that Philip has previously referred to as a fuss, he will lay at St James's Palace in London for approximately a week, but only his family and close friends will be able to view his body. The public will not be able to pay their respect, or at least it's not expected. Coming into number 6, we have details of the funeral. As I said, Prince Philip is not expected to have a state funeral, which he is entitled to but does not wish for. A state funeral is a very large-scale national occasion characterised by the use of a gun carriage and also a procession of military bands. The last proper state funeral the UK saw was that of Sir Winston Churchill in 1965. The next we see is likely to be the Queen's herself. Philip doesn't want all of the fuss, so his funeral will likely be a small affair at St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. It would most likely be attended by the heads of state from Commonwealth countries, so Justin Trudeau of Canada and Scott Morrison of Australia and so on and so forth. There would be a small amount of press coverage, although I imagine that the UK press would be respectful at this time. Coming into number 5, he would be buried at Windsor Castle. Following the funeral, it is likely that Philip will be buried in the grounds at Windsor Castle, specifically Frogmore Gardens. This would also most likely mean that the Queen will one day be buried beside him there too. Both Prince Albert and Queen Victoria are also buried in the gardens, so they would be among good company. There have been some renegade suggestions that Prince Philip might like to be buried at sea because of his naval background, although Frogmore does seem the far more likely outcome. Coming into number 4, he will be heavily eulogized. In the days following his funeral, Prince Philip will be heavily eulogized and special memorial features will run on TV. The man has so far lived for 97 years, all of which have been pretty interesting, so there will be a lot of ground to cover. Perhaps there will even be a segment remembering his greatest gaffes over the years. Many of us from the UK know that he's made many in his time. For example, in 2003 he told the president of Nigeria, who was dressed in traditional robes, "You look like you're ready for bed." Philip. Of course there will be more serious memorials highlighting his work with the Royal Navy, and of course some put together documentaries about his enduring marriage to the Queen. Netflix The Crown will likely make a comment and dedicate a forthcoming episode to the Prince, whose antics are a focal point for much of season 1 and 2. Coming into number 3, there will be 8 days of mourning for the royal family. The Queen will enter a period of mourning that will last 8 days. During these 8 days she is unlikely to be seen by the public, she won't do any royal duties, and no laws will be given any royal assent. Any matter of state will be put on hold out of respect for the Queen's official mourning period. Following that, she's expected to continue a slightly laxer mourning period for 30 days, after which she'll return to public duty. No doubt her return would be made with a very heavy heart. If we venture back through history, Queen Victoria did not cope with the loss of her husband well and fled to Balmoral Castle in Scotland for much of the rest of her life, shifting the power hub of the country from London to the Highlands of Scotland. It's not expected that our Queen will take things in the same way, and whilst she will be wearing black for a short period, I'm sure she will find an occasion for her pastel suits once again. That being said, after her husband's death, I am certain that she will be very, very glum, and number 2 will happen, and that is official Queen Watch. I say official, it's gonna be unofficial, but mostly led by the newspapers and people around. Queen Elizabeth has had her husband with her throughout the most of her life and the entirety of her reign. They've been married since 1947. Without him, I imagine she would appear pretty lost, hardy as she is. Philip has been the constant in her life. He was there for her throughout the death of her parents and her sister. He has very much been her rock. It is possible that soon after Philip dies, the Queen could pass away too. It often does happen that way with spouses who have been together for a very long time. I for one really hope not, but at 92 herself, there may not be many more years until she's reunited with him. Finally, coming into number 1, his legacy will live on, and we've got the question of, is he going to be the last Duke of Edinburgh? Prince Philip is the Duke of Edinburgh. He's the 3rd to hold that title. The first one was Prince Frederick in 1726, the second was Victoria and Albert's son Alfred, and the 3rd was Prince Philip himself. In the line of succession to inherit the title is his son Prince Charles, who is the Prince of Wales. Perhaps though, with his impending kinghood, the Queen would make Prince George or Prince Louis, Prince William's sons, the next Duke of Edinburgh, or maybe they'd retire the title. In the UK we have the Duke of Edinburgh Award, and I imagine that will keep going in memoriam of Prince Philip. Philip has brought a lot to the crown, and in many ways he has been praised for modernising it. His legacy will likely go down alongside his wife's in history. So guys, what do you think will happen when Prince Philip dies? Let me know in the comments section down below. It will be a sad day for the crown indeed, but he will forever be remembered as a very colourful character. So guys, before I leave, I just want to read some comments from one of my most recent videos. This was also Queen related. We did the top 10 scary Queen Elizabeth facts, which I did in collaboration with Jack from Top 5. Now we got loads of comments from you guys being like, yay, we love Jack, who, yeah, I guess he should appear in more videos. Hey!
Hello.
Look, I brought him in for the comments. It's
Convenient.
Jack. I'm reading some comments. Do you want to read my first one?
Yes, of course.
It was actually a really interesting comment from someone whose aunt used to work for the Queen. So I'll let you read it out. It's from the one unfeatured person who's now very much featured in this video. This is what they had to say.
They had to say, my aunt used to be the lady that wakes up the Queen and make her tea and make sure she could find everything.
Yeah.
Wow. One day, Prince William walked in and the Queen said, William, this is Mandy. I've been telling you about her.
Whoa!
And my auntie started crying.
Why did she start crying? Tell me.
Because William shook her hand and thanked her.
Oh my goodness.
I'd actually respond the same way, yeah.
I would.
She got offered to get on the Royal Britannia, but seeing as terrorism was going on when she worked there, she decided to quit and say her goodbyes. Wow, that was an absolute roller coaster of a comment.
I know. She said that the Queen was very nice about it and personally said goodbye. She said, I know no one cares, but I thought I'd say, actually, we care.
We care.
We really care.
Very much care. Well done.
Good comment.
Jordan95HD said, this was a great video, guys. I enjoyed Jack. Oh, thanks, dude. And I subscribed to his channel and turned on notifications. God save the Queen? Question mark, exclamation mark.
Thanks, Jordan, and thanks, Jack, for jumping into the end of this video.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You can catch Jack on top 5, and I'm gonna leave. He's got a video to film now. It worked out perfectly. See you later, guys.
Bye.